Oticon More is the first hearing aid with a deep neural network embedded on the chip. The system has been trained with no less than 12 million sound scenes. Based on this training and experience, the system has learned how to balance all different kinds of sound environments with precision, all in order to support the user's brain. And how this came about, that's what we'll talk about today. But for this, we need an expert. And that's why I'm very happy to be joined by Asgar from Oticon Research and Development. Asgar has been very much involved in the Oticon More project, and he has promised to help us today get a bit more understanding as to what this is and how it's relevant to Oticon More.
Well, thank you for having me. So this is called a spherical microphone, and it's something that we used quite a lot during the development of Oticon More. So if you consider a completely regular microphone and you place that in some sound environment, what it will do is that it will record the sound that's there, but it will not record any information about where the sounds were coming from or the acoustics of the environment or all of these things. And that kind of information is actually very important to human beings, but it's also important to hearing aids. Just like we do, they use it to make sense of the environment that they're in and figure out what to do, how to behave. And that's why whenever we make recordings of sound environments, we like to also include this kind of information. And that's why we use a microphone like this. We call it a microphone, but if you look a bit closer at it, what it actually is, it's a metal sphere that has 32 microphones distributed uniformly all over the surface. And when we record on these 32 microphones simultaneously, we collect, you can call it a complete 3D fingerprint of the sound environment. So basically we collect the sound that's in the environment, but also where all the sound sources are located and what the acoustics were and the whole sound experience of being in the environment. So this gives us all this information that our hearing aids need to make sense of those environments.
So you get this very precise picture of the whole world around you 360. So how did this come about? Did you just like take the microphone with you to record the sound scenes going home and bringing it to different activities, or how did you record all of these scenes?
Well, the short answer is actually quite simply yes. We identified a lot of sound environments that we believe to be important for our users. So this could be typically places with a lot of people, like restaurants or cafes, places with a lot of babble in the background, or it could be places with a lot of other noise, like a car is typically a fairly difficult environment actually, where people tend to spend a lot of time. So after we identified these sound environments, we went to them one at a time. So say the restaurant, we actually just went to a restaurant, got a table, and then we placed the microphone at the table as if it was just another participant at the dinner.
So you made a reservation for an extra person?
Absolutely, yes.
Yes.
Then we filled up the rest of the table with people and asked them to have a completely natural conversation like they would in any other situation in a restaurant. And then we recorded that. And then there's a slight twist because we managed to record separately the foreground of what happens, which would be the conversation of the table that you're at, the thing you want to attend to fully, and then another separate recording of the background. So say the unintelligible babble from all the other tables and noises from the kitchen and so on and so forth. We recorded this in 2 separate audio tracks, and it sounds quite simple to do this, but actually you need quite a lot of tricks to make it so that it sounds natural when you mix these 2 recordings together. You can't just record them one at a time. But we managed to do this, and this gives us very important information for actually developing our algorithms, because it tells us exactly what part of the sound scene the hearing aid should focus on really presenting accurately to the user, and what parts should be gently pushed in the background so that you can hear it, but it doesn't really steal your attention.
Okay, so you have this really detailed picture of the sound environment that you've recorded in different places that are relevant to our users. But how did all these sound scenes, how did they become relevant in terms of the development of the hearing aid? How were they used in the training? How did that happen?
So we have a lot of sound scenes now. We have a large database of these kinds of recordings in all kinds of difficult environments. And for all of these environments, we have the foreground that you want to attend to as a separate recording and the background as a separate recording. And what that has allowed us to do is to basically present all of these recordings one at a time, over and over and over again, to a neural network that has gradually learned to figure out what are the details that make up the foreground and the background, and basically distinguishing between all of these different features in your sound environment. So this gives us a sound processing algorithm that has learned to sort of balance the sound environment directly in the environments that we want the hearing aid to work well in. And that sounds kind of obvious that you would do it like that when I say it now, but it actually runs completely counter to the conventional way of doing things. Normally, a few years ago, we would have started with pen and paper and tried to make mathematical assumptions about speech and about noise, and then we would have tried to mathematically derive some kind of optimal approach to getting rid of the noise. And then only after you've done all the mathematics, you take it out into an actual restaurant, and it might not sound good at all in reality. Here, we've flipped things completely around, and it has allowed us to basically focus on what is important, what do we want the hearing aid to do, and what kinds of environments should it do it really, really well in, as opposed to spending a whole lot of time worrying about how to actually do it. The truth is that we don't know how this neural network solves the task, and we don't care because we can measure that it does a really, really good job, and that's all we worry about.
Thank you very much, Asgar. This was really enlightening. So we actually start in the real world instead of ending out there. If you want to know more about Oticon More and the deep neural network, please visit the Oticon website. Thank you for watching.